Yes, he did. He gives it to Henry. Henry trying to track this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the pod. Let's start with last week. We gave you some picks in UFC 299. Members got to see all of our bets. We did go 4 for 4, including some underdogs, the biggest one being Dustin Poirier that we took with money line and pulled it off against BSD. So make sure if you like to do the sports betting, join as a member. There you can see all of our bets every week, including our big NBA pickups. And with the NFL season coming up, before we even get to the season, we'll have futures, we'll have division winners. I might leak a couple of those during the pod today, so stay tuned for that. But let's move into NFL free agency, as that's the biggest thing going on right now. I'm going to start with some winners and losers and how some of this stuff impacts. Of course, the big one that everyone's talking about, obviously Atlanta is a winner with Kirk Cousins. You can question how much they paid him, and I know some people don't think he's all that good. For me, the reason why I'm all in on it is looking at the delta between Kirk Cousins and, Ritter and all these other guys they plugged in that played really bad passing the ball. This is going to help their run attack. This is going to help them see if these young, wide receiver weapons they have are any good or not. And I think in a weak division, yeah, sure, Tampa Bay's good and won the division last year. I think this makes Atlanta the favorite. I don't know if the over number is going to be good when that comes out, because it seems like a lot of betting is trending the Atlanta way based on this. So, maybe it overshoots. I mean, right now they're even money to win the division. And I still like the bet even at that number. I do think that they're the team to beat in this division. I could see Atlanta winning 10 games, and that's not my number. I haven't looked at the schedule or anything like that and mapped it out. I'm just saying in general, I feel like it's a team that could win 10 games, beating up on a weak division and, having a much better offense, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Another winner in free agency is Washington. I feel like they've just made a lot of really good, solid moves so far, and they're projected to land a couple of big guys. If they land, say, the tackle from the Cowboys, I mean, we've seen Washington win free agency before, but this is more of making some good pickups instead of big names at over priced values. And we'll get into the team that's doing that this year, in my opinion, as well. I think Washington's a winner. I think between as good as Dallas was, despite not doing much in free agency, and Philadelphia making a few pickups, they're still not going to be a factor there. They, obviously we think they're going to draft a quarterback. We'll see how that goes there. I don't think they're going to be a factor in the division, but, maybe that'll be a team that there's some value on. We'll have to see where that number comes out at. Another team's free agency that I really liked was Baltimore. I feel like they always make the shrewd move. They'll pick up the guy that, teams talk about but don't pick for whatever reason, positional value. You see it when they got Tyler Lindenbaum in the draft. You seen it when Kyle Hamilton was falling and they traded up and got him. And the guy that's undervalued this year, Derrick Henry. I don't know. I want to say the guy's like 30, 29, somewhere in there. Maybe I'm off a little bit. But, people act like he's old and done because he wasn't the best running back in the league on a terrible team. I definitely think it's an upgrade over Gus Edwards. And, Tennessee signed a guy for basically the same price that I don't think is going to be able to carry the load. Let me know what you think in the comment section. But I think Henry is a good fit, especially because he's not going to have to carry the ball 5 million times on Baltimore. I think he's going to look good this year behind a good line on a good team. So stand by for that. A couple other teams that I really liked in free agency without really digging into it, just kind of off the top of my head. I got New England. Somehow they got Uchi to sign for peanuts. like substantially less than other teams offered him. I don't know how they pulled that off, but that's a great signing, even though they only locked him up for 1 year. Houston had a few good moves, plus the big splash with Hunter. You know, some people are talking about Super Bowl bound. I don't know about all that, but I do think it's interesting to have Hunter on a line where you also have Will Anderson that's been drawing some attention. And then obviously CJ Stroud, as we talked about in our quarterback analysis, who is our QB1, looked great as we expected, and Houston overperformed as we expected. The Bears, I also like their free agency. I can't remember all the signings off the top of my head. I know they retained their cornerback. I know they picked up wide receiver for decent money. I thought even going back to last year, they made a good moves with trading the number 1 pick. This is one of the biggest things I'm going to get questioned on, so I'll just answer it right here. People say, well, you were a big fan of them trading the number 1 pick last year, but you're saying not so much this year. The key difference is, I don't think any of the quarterbacks were like Caleb Williams. Now, obviously, we don't know all the things looking at, you know, all the projections and film that some of these guys that are paid to be scouts are, and we know those guys get it wrong all the time too. But as high as this guy's rated, if you think he really has that shot to be a top-tier quarterback, I don't think there's anything you trade that pick for. That's my personal opinion. And to keep Justin Fields, who can run the ball good and throw the ball okay and really spends too much time behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, you already gave him an extra year last year. Not saying he can't turn out to be okay in the certain offense. You know, will he survive in a pistol type offense? I don't know. I think that's where he'd perform best. But, you know, regardless of whatever value you lost or whatever you can trade him for, just get what you can. Take Caleb Williams if he's your guy. I think the Bears are going to be a top candidate for being over their win total, you know, depending on how much Vegas values all the moves and changes they made, as well as them just being a hot team at the end of the season. They had a solid defense that they're already adding to. They, you know, they filled the key positions on offense. If the line can give some protection and Caleb Williams comes out as some people expect, that could be a pretty good team. Now on the loser side, you know, this is where people try to be nice sometimes. I'm just going to call some of the teams that come to mind. You know, Minnesota, I don't care who they and I did feel like they did make a lot of good signings, but when you bring in Sam Darnold and you let Kirk Cousins go, like, that's just not the answer at QB. They're not going to be competitive in the division at all. They still have to make a move. On that note, today Minnesota did trade. They got Houston's first round pick. Seemed like a pretty even trade across the board. So they have picks 11 and 23. Of course, the thought process by many is this is the start of either getting a value quarterback that slides or trying to build up ammunition to trade up and get their guy. I don't know how likely that's going to be. I don't think the Bears are moving off of one. I mean, really none of the top 3 teams should move their pick unless they don't, you know, they're not sure on the guys available at quarterback. But that's my personal opinion. Some people think they might be working on a trade with New England. That is the one team that I feel like if they see a certain value, they might jump on that. Or, you know, if they think, hey, maybe they think, you know, these 2 guys are the top QBs, and if we can't get one of them, we'll go back and settle. I'm not sure. Okay, Miami is definitely on the loser list. I would just say this is kind of the salary cap hell you could just kind of get in once you have to actually pay your quarterback. They had too many contracts ending at the same time, which I think is kind of a management issue. And they paid some guys some big money when they were trying to make a push, and now they're kind of paying for that. So, while they did make some signings, they lost a ton of guys. So, I can't see this team being quite as good as they were last year, even though they do have most of their key players still intact. Other teams that I have on the losing side would be Jacksonville. I think they got some good guys, but every contract I saw, I thought they overpaid for. They missed re-signing Ridley, and then they overpaid for Gabe Davis. I know some people love him, but just kind of what I've seen, he seems like a one-trick pony. Maybe that's all he was asked to do in Buffalo, but I'm just not a big Gabe Davis fan. They gave him 3 years for $39 million. And then, Armstead, who I actually really liked out of San Francisco. Again, I like the defensive tackle. I just think they paid too much. So this is kind of what we're talking about, the big names and just kind of oversplashing for some guys. On that note, the Raiders did the same. They got the defensive tackle that I thought was really going to be a steal for somebody. But at that price, I don't know. If him and Crosby dominate, I guess no one's going to care in the short term. But on top of that, they gave Uncle Rico 2 years for $25 million. I don't see the offense doing anything without that. They let Josh Jacobs go. I don't like the replacement plan there either. So, although I really like the coach and kind of how they finished up the end of the year, you let Jacobs be your best player and kind of carry you on offense, and now you just kind of let him go. So, remains to be seen. Again, I like the coach, but I don't know how this is going to play out for the Raiders long term. You need money to fix your biggest problem, that's quarterback, and I don't think Uncle Rico is going to be the answer there, unless your ceiling is trying to go 500. And then finally, we got Tennessee. We talked about them on here. You signed Pollard for $8 million a year. You basically could have did Henry for around that neighborhood anyhow. I definitely feel like that's a downgrade. I'm not as big on Pollard as some. I know some people say, well, he's younger, upside, whatever. I don't think this guy can carry the load, honestly. There's a big difference when you're the guy running the ball all the time and you're the change of pace spec getting the ball. So those are some of the winners and losers. Obviously, I didn't, I stay on top of free agency, but I didn't go through with a fine-tooth comb and rank all these teams. Another team, a couple other teams that I could have put on there. Could have had Dallas on the loser side just because they didn't really do too much. Detroit kind of falls in that category too. They lost Jonah Jackson, who's a big piece, in my opinion. So they're going to have to replace him at guard. He's played at a pretty high level. They did do the trade to get the cornerback from Tampa Bay. He wasn't so great last year, but he's had a couple of good, really good years. So he should improve the mess of what they have in their defensive backfield. And then let me know in the comments section what you think about the DJ Reader signing. It's kind of hard to judge some of this line play just seeing a few games and not really getting to see the impact. But he's always graded out really well and is, allegedly one of the best run stuffers in the league. And no one's really talking about that signing. I felt like 2 years, $27 million is not that bad, unless, people are worried about how bad his injuries holding up or his age or whatever. But, he's still like 29-30 range. So, 2-year deal is not a big deal. Detroit also lost CJ Garner, who I was kind of hoping they could sign, but they weren't able to get that discount deal again. And Philly realized what they missed out and paid him. So it'll be key to see what they wind up doing with their draft picks, because Brad Holmes does always seem to strike gold there. The question is, after taking them on the over 2 years in a row, I don't know if they're going to be able to outperform whatever number gets put up this year, because a lot of people are hype on Detroit now that they've done it. But I still kind of like them for the division. At plus 150 now, it's an okay bet. Just keep in mind, Green Bay's got a young team and they're up and coming. The Bears have made a lot of changes as well, but I still like Detroit there. Okay, let's shift to NBA basketball really quick. I was watching the Oklahoma City and Mavericks game last night, and I'm trying to figure out why people don't have Oklahoma City as a contender. Now, I've already made it clear that I think Denver's my team coming out of the West. But, people talk about these low seeds. You're constantly hearing about the Lakers and the Mavericks. They're 8th or 10th or whatever, and inconsistent and kind of reliant too much on certain players. OKC, obviously they depend a lot on SGA for the scoring load, and he's been great. But they got a lot of youth everywhere. They got guys that are willing to defend. They have size, and Chet's only going to get better as he gets stronger, and and learns more. I don't see why this team that's like in first place and had a great record isn't getting more love, especially when a guy like SGA is like playing at an MVP level. He's definitely in the top 4 this year. There's like 4 guys, in my opinion, that have separated themselves from the group, and he's one of them that took his breakout season from last year and is even built on top of it, and the wins are coming this year as well. Look for us to do a live NFL draft coverage when that happens. Let me know in the comments section if that's something you guys can support, and we'll make it worthwhile to kind of give our live thoughts about the picks as they come in, at least for the first round. Anyhow, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and I'll see you guys next week.
No, T-Mac.